Hi, I'm Kate and I make junk journals. And today we're gonna make these 3 tags. Hey you guys, it's Sunday night and I already edited the video and I can't wait to show you the tutorial. But before we start, I wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway. And the winner is Tina White! Yay! And I'm so excited. So I will get this in the mail to you as soon as you send me an email with your mailing address at katesjunkjournals@gmail.com. So you've got 2 weeks to send me your address. Otherwise, I'm gonna give it to somebody else. So I can't wait to hear from you soon, and I hope you love your journal. And thank you everyone else so much for entering. Okay, back to you, Tutorial Kate. Thanks, Kate. Man, she is really good at that. Okay, let's get to crafting. So before I start another project, which by the way, next week I've decided what template I'm gonna do, and it is very, well, not complex in that it's really easy to do, but it looks the most complex and it's by far the most interactive page. So I'm really excited for that. But for now, I kind of need to prepare for my next journal by making just some standard tags and things that I can just grab. When I'm in journal making mode, I kind of hate stopping and making all the tags and the journaling cards, and I just like to kind of grab what I have. So now to kind of prepare for the future journals, I'm gonna make some generic cards, and here's just a few go-to cards that I like to make a lot. So for this first one, I just have this scrap piece of paper, and it's double-sided. So anytime it's double-sided, then there's not already pre-writing space. Then I like to do something to it. If it's blank on one side, then I can just cut it to my ideal height and maybe ink the edges or maybe round the corners and stick like an embellishment on it, or use my crocodile and stick an eyelet right there and put some ribbon on the top, or there's lots of things you could do that are just simple. But when it's double-sided, I like to create some writing space. So let's see how big this is. This looks like it's a little less than 2.5 inches, and it goes to 7.5 inches. Most of the journals I've been making lately are 5x7s, so I definitely don't want it 7 inches or longer. And I usually need to leave like a little space around the borders, plus the pocket is there so it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. And so a good standard size is anywhere from 4 to 6 inches. So I'm gonna just do 5.5 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna use this avocado dyed paper, and I am gonna try to keep as much of the paper as I can, so I'm not gonna cut it quite yet. I'm gonna line this up to where there's like a 1/4 inch border on either of those sides, and then I'm gonna see what would happen if we folded it right there. Okay, that is a little big, so I'm gonna roll it up until I just get about a 1/4 inch space down there, and then I'm just gonna kind of crease it and mark that. Then I'm gonna get my new favorite tool, my scoreboard, and I'm just gonna kind of score it around where that line is. Try to keep it straight, though that is something I notice I struggle with. Okay, so once I have that, I can fold it in half and just kind of trim off this excess. Okay, so now that lines up really well and that's folded over once. And I'm just gonna mark kind of where I want my next fold to be. And that's going to be about a 1/4 inch in from that side. Get my fancy little scoreboard. Hope that it's straight. Okay, so that is going to fold and fit in there pretty nicely. So this is going to be kind of where I want my bottom fold to be, and then I'm going to have these kind of roll up in there. So I'm just going to take a look and to see where that mark is. It looks like it's just a little bit less than 2 inches. So I'm gonna make my next fold line to be a little bit smaller than that. So it was at that tick, so I'm gonna go down a tick and make another crease there. Then I'm going to put my new crease that I just made in that corner, and I'm gonna measure just one more tick over to the side. So that's where I started, that's where I did my next crease, and now I'm gonna go down this one. Okay, and then same thing, I'm just going to bring my crease over and move this down to the next tick over. And then for this last one, you can either trim the excess, which is what I will do, or you could make a tiny little fold and fold it over. So this is at 1.5 inches, so I just need to trim this to be less than 1.5 inches. So now with those varying sizes, it will really help me to be able to easily let them all fit within each other. And it will fold down a little nicer because they each have a little bit of space on the sides. So I have this little fold out paper, and I have this, and I am just going to glue the whole back side down to there. I'm going to use my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue for this. Okay, so I'm just going to press it flat and just kind of eyeball, making sure it looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch away from all the sides. And then I'm just going to open it up and press that bottom layer nice and flat. Okay, and once I have that done, I'm going to find the panel that faces the top. So it's going to be the one right here. And we're going to put one of those little circle wrappy things, you know, those like envelope circle things where you put the string. I should probably look up all these terms before I start recording, but I don't want to. So, circle envelopey thing it is. So if you already have a way that you like to do this, do it your way, because like most of the things I do, I just kind of made it up. And I'm just gonna put a tiny little piece of washi tape down. And this is kind of to mark my spot, but mostly to add a little bit of strength to that paper. I'm going to take my awl from my bookbinding kit and just kind of poke a hole. If you don't have an awl, you can just poke it with a needle or something. Then I'm going to take my circle puncher. I love this circle puncher. I actually just got it. I used to make little circles, but I would just like trace a circular thing and then cut around it, and it was really annoying. So I'm really happy that I have this, and it makes making these circular envelope thingies way easier. So I'm just gonna pop out a circle, and I can either have it match that border or I can flip it around for some variety and it will match the back, which I think that's what I'm gonna do because I like the way it kind of looks more random, but it still goes. And I'm gonna use this Tim Holtz weathered wood to just kind of give some texture and contrast to the edges. Then I'm gonna take my awl and hope that I know what the middle is and poke the middle. Okay, so I have my brad and I stick it in the middle there, and I stick it in the middle there, and I will lay that flat. So let's fold this up, and I'm gonna grab a piece of string, and I'm just gonna use some bookbinding thread, but any little string will work. And I'm going to wrap it around the underneath part and tie a square knot, right over left, left over right. Get that nice and tight, and then I'm going to trim this little part. So that should be knotted on there like that. Then I'm going to take the string and wrap it around the whole tag, wrap it around the little circle 2 times, and then I'm going to cut down here. Now, if this is going somewhere where you don't want to add a ton of bulk, I usually just tie a little knot on the edge and trim off the edge. If you have more space to add a little bit more bulk, it's really fun to add a bead. So we're gonna pick from my little bead jar, and then we're just gonna string the bead through that and then tie as many knots as it takes to keep the bead there. So for this bead, that hole looks like it might need 2 knots. And that should keep it nice and secure. And then I'll just trim off whatever little excess is there. And now I have this super cute tag that we can unhook, and it is a full paper of writing. And if you want to cover this up, you can put a little embellishment there, a little strip of washi tape across or something else, or you can just leave it. It is up to you. And for now I won't embellish anything because I don't know what journal it's going in yet, and maybe I want to kind of coordinate it a little better. So this tag is all done. Okay, time for tag number 2, and we're going to make one out of playing cards. So playing cards are so fun because they're a really good journaling card size, and you can get some really fun, crazy backgrounds. It's really fun to get your hands on a really unique deck of playing cards, because then they're kind of like trading cards, and you can swap with them, and you can kind of collect them and share them with others. So all of these are actually ones that I've gotten from other people in swaps, and they're really great to share because when you get them, you have 52 of them, and it's cool because you can be generous and give people like a little stack of the cards, and then people give you cards, and it's just really fun, and you'll end up with a whole variety of them. So they are the perfect size, and they're really fun, and there is a lot of variety out there, but they don't have any writing spot on them. So we're gonna do what my default what to do with a playing card thing is, and it's not very fancy or complicated, but it's really simple, and it provides writing space. So I'm gonna grab just some kind of writing paper. You can decide if you like it to just look like it's a card and then you put stuff on it, Or you can do something like sand it off or do some kind of technique to kind of put texture or something to kind of cover it up and blend it up more. So however you want to prepare this card is totally up to you. But once it's how you like it, you can grab a piece of writing paper and just kind of line it up there. We're going to mark it. I want the paper to almost hit that outside edge, but just be a tiny bit smaller so it doesn't ever slide and peek out, or it's easier for me to measure accurately. So I'm going to do the same thing, just a tiny, tiny little border. So it's pretty much visually no border. And so this is already pretty much perfect size, but I would, if this was longer, I would just make sure that there was a little bit room above the paper so that we can turn it into a pocket. And then it comes almost all the way to the bottom, and then I would cut it to kind of line up with that top page like that. You could even cut it to line up with that top page, but you can do any variation. You'll kind of get the idea once I show you. But this will just be kind of like a jumping off point to give you some ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and use my scoreboard, and we'll put that fold right there. Okay, so you'll end up with something like this. And because these corners are kind of rounded, I'm going to round those corners too. So it'll sit kind of like that. And once again, I'm going to ink all the edges just to get a little definition. Okay, and now I'm just going to glue this down, and I'm gluing it on the back side and these three sides. Okay, and we'll just flip that over, line it up close to the bottom, so like this. So you could cut this a little bit shorter and put a piece of paper down like this that creates a little clasp, or you can just leave it like this and not have it lay flat but fold out. And lots of times that's what I'll do, because this will be going in some sort of pocket, so it will sit snug, so it's not like it will just like flop open on its own until it's taken out. And at that point you're handling it, and so I'm happy that that is just floppy. All right, so now we're gonna find something to put in there, and I'll just grab this scrap paper of the avocado dyed paper, and I just want to measure it. So the glue comes up to probably about here, so this won't go down much further than that, and I want it to poke out the top but not hit the top. So I'm just gonna guess about there, and I can always kind of trim it shorter if I'm wrong. And then I'll round these corners, and then I will just kind of tri-fold it so that it kind of fits in this little pocket. And then we'll slip it in that little pocket space, and that fits nicely in there. So again, I can either embellish this now and put a little stamp or sticker right here, or put some little cute words or flowers or something here, or however I want to decorate this. So I can either do that now or just wait till I'm making my junk journal and add just a few things. But this is the basic structure, and it's really handy and it's kind of cool. It gives it a little bit more interaction, and then it also provides quite a bit of writing space for just one little card. So before we do this last card, let me just say that sometimes I just glue a strip of paper on the back and that's it. And sometimes if I think that it's possible to write there, I will just put it as is, maybe around the corners, maybe ink the edges, maybe not. But I like to have a variety in the journals of things that are kind of complicated and really detailed, and then things that are just paper, and then just kind of everything in between. So I definitely do a lot of simple stuff, a lot of on the fly stuff, but these are just some ideas to kind of have on hand that are a little bit more interactive and complicated. So for this last card, we're just going to take a piece of journaling card, and again, this is double-sided so that there's not a place for me to write on right now. And the other thing I do is just treat this like a little junk journal page. And so we can make a pocket, a writing spot, fold out stuff, and just kind of turn it into a little mini page. So any of the things that you've seen me do on a bigger page, we can take those concepts and put it in small. So let's start by inking these edges so it's all prepared. And what I think I want to do this time is make a pocket on this side with some writing space on top, And on this side, we'll just turn this into a belly band and stick something in there. So let's start with this side because it's going to lay a little flatter and it'll be easier to work on this side because this side might get a little bumpy. So we're gonna need to find just some sort of strip of paper and put it either that way or that way. So I'm just gonna look in my scrap pile for that. And whenever I have something that's really busy, I like to kind of add it with something with just mainly texture and not a lot of busyness. Because if I put something super busy on busy, it just gets like messy looking. So we're gonna pull from, there's some pink tones in there and I really like to work in pinks. This will add texture and variety, but it's pretty plain and simple so it won't be too busy to look at. And I really like this little church and greenery and flowers. So if I do it this way, I'm gonna kind of cover up that little cute church. So I'm gonna do it this way. You can make your belly band as fat or as skinny as you want. And I will just kind of randomly choose somewhere there. Okay, and we'll line this up almost to the very edge. And we'll mark where that edge is. And we'll ink these edges. Okay, and now I'm just going to glue these two sides so that there's room to slip something behind it. And generally for belly bands, I kind of stick them in the middle, but because I want to see more of those flowers, I'm going to kind of put it on the lower end. And now I need to find something to stick behind there. So I'll just grab some scrap paper and cut it to fit behind there. For belly bands, I do like to have something that's folded, just because if it's a single piece of paper and it's not very bulky, it can kind of slip out of a belly band. But if it's kind of folded and wants to kind of like open up just a tiny bit, it's gonna hold in the belly band just a little bit better. It's always nice to just kind of make sure nothing's gonna fall out. So I'll just cut this down to be the right height. And I can either fold this 2 times or I can just cut it there. And I think I'm just gonna cut it. Look at me learning restraint. And I'll just add a little ink just so it looks a little bit finished or designed and on purpose. And again, I'll probably end up putting some sort of embellishment or something going on besides the paper, or not. Sometimes this is good enough. I try to remember that if you write on this and you write on this, it will look a lot more busy and it will look a lot more interesting. So when you're planning on writing in your journals, you can leave them a lot more blank because you can always color in or add things as you write in them as well. But it is super fun to add cute things. Okay, on the back side, let's make that little pocket by finding another piece of scrap paper. And I really like this. Same thing, it has texture, but it's not a high contrast pattern like this is. And you can choose how deep you want your pocket. You could put all the way up here and then maybe even put another little strip of paper on top of here and then shove it in, or you can bring it down low if you kind of want to see your tags more. So I was gonna do it down low, but this very minute I decided I want it kind of high. So I'm gonna put it here and mark it if I can find my pencil. Oh, it's right here. So I will put it right here, just around there. And I really am tempted to fold this, create stuff on here and make it like several pages of interesting stuff, but I'm not making a junk journal page. I'm just making a little card. But just so you know, there's a lot of potential always. You can always add more layers and more text, and anytime you glue anything, you can just glue 3 sides of it and stick something behind it. Because I usually need something semi-flat when I'm grabbing for a journaling card, I will refrain and just mark it here. Okay, and then we're gonna ink these edges, and then we're gonna glue these 3 sides. And we'll just line it up kind of at the bottom and on either edge. Okay, so we need to find a card for the back. And then for this part, we can either leave it blank, just put a strip of paper on that is something you can write on, or you can make a smaller pocket and have it be lots of layers of pockets, or you could add a belly band or whatever your heart desires. And I think I'm just going to put some paper here, and dang it, I was hoping that would fit and I would be able to be so proud of myself for keeping it simple, but I am going to cut it down there and then glue 3 sides, and then we can stick something in there too, because anytime it doesn't quite line up, it leaves the perfect spot for a little tag or something. So I can't really refuse that. So I think that's what we have to do. So I'll just ink these edges up, and then once again, I'm just gonna glue 3 sides. And then I'm gonna line it up a little bit closer on this edge to leave room for that card or tag or whatever we put there. Okay, and then I'll just grab, so these are like little journaling card and tag things that I just keep around, and I would just stick this in a journal without doing anything because there's writing spots in the back. But I can use these here and just slip that one in here to about there. And I probably should have been more careful about where I cut that so I didn't behead this poor little sweet girl. But it's a little too late for her, so sorry. Now if you'll notice, this is too short. So you can either just keep it like that and hope you don't push it in too far, and you can dig it out if it gets stuck. Or you can put something that will keep it out, like a little ribbon or something. So I'm gonna grab my crocodile. Well, first I'm gonna ink the edges real quick. And then I'll just make a little hole at the top and stick an eyelet in it. And then smash that down. And then I can get a little string or something and stick it in. And then I'll just grab some ribbon and kind of thread it through that eyelet. And if I want them to stick straight up, I can grab both ends and kind of tie a knot right there, and then it will kind of have a big knot at the top and stick up, and that's cute. Or I can just tie a normal knot and they'll kind of stick out a little bit more. So I'm just gonna tie a normal knot, and I'm gonna pull that nice and tight, giving it a little room. And because I don't really want a big double knot, but I want it to stay, I'm just gonna kind of get it where I want it and glue it up. So I'll just kind of squirt some glue kind of on the inside where the 2 pieces of ribbon are touching so that they kind of stay put. And then I can just get the scissors and trim this how I want it, and we'll add a little sideways cut so that it looks a little, I don't know what that word is, ribbony. Yep, ribbony, that is a word now. And then we can stick it in there, and that is gonna help it so that that doesn't just slip behind there. And if we wanna give this some extra protection, because that paper is pretty thin and this bulk might eventually start wearing on that, I can just grab some washi tape and just kind of help that border be a little stronger. So here is another little tag. And again, these concepts are really vague, and so you can implement them in a lot of different ways. You can use this idea on a card, or you can use this idea on a piece of paper. You can make anything into any of the templates that we're doing. You can use any of these concepts on a real page instead of a little journaling card. Pretty much the moral of this story is turn everything into a pocket. So I hope these kind of spark your imagination, and you can kind of start to think of different ideas that you can implement in all of your journals and tags. They're great because they go with any style, any theme, and you can use any paper. Thanks so much for crafting with me today. If you make something based off this tutorial, I would love to see it. You can tag me on Instagram at Kate's Junk Journals. Thanks again so much for subscribing and for your comments and your questions. And speaking of questions, it's time for a little Q&A. Today's question comes from Ma Foster, and she asked me, what do you do with 50 junk journals? What do you put in them other than tons of stuff you make for them? I mean, what do you write in them? So that is a very good question. And I'm afraid I'm gonna have to confess something to you, a little bit embarrassing. I don't have a junk journal. The first few dozen I made, I gave away and told them that they could write in them or not, keep them on their shelves, put pictures in them, draw in them, give them to their children, or write notes in them, or whatever they wanted to do. And lots of my friends have written in them, and it's been really fun to see their journals, and lots of them will be idea books or journals or doodles. And some people can't bring themselves to write in it because they don't want to ruin it, which is ridiculous. I think it should be a requirement that anybody who wants to use a junk journal should have to like scribble on the first page and make it ugly so that they feel comfortable just writing in the rest of it, and it's okay. But this year, I've already made a goal, before I even got this question, that I was gonna make the next set of tutorials would be a junk journal for me to keep. And then I'll finally have a junk journal. While I'm making that, I'm also currently collecting journaling prompts, and I want to write out a whole bunch of journaling prompts and stick them in a jar and pick one out. And I think that method makes the most sense to me with the way that I construct junk journals, because everything is kind of like a hidden secret space, which is really fun to build, but kind of hard to have it like flow like a journal or a notebook that you need to refer to. So if you do a journaling prompt, then you can just put the prompt at the top, answer the question, and if it's a small little thing that's like, list your 3 current favorite movies, you can take out one of those secret tiny papers and just write, a few of your favorite things and stick it back in. And that way it's not really a linear book, and then it's more enjoyable, I think, to go back and read it and discover it and enjoy it that way. So if you have any resources for journaling prompts, I've got my eye out and I would love to hear them. You can either write your ideas in a comment or send me links if you know where a list is. That being said, that's just my personal idea, and you can literally do anything with a junk journal. It'd be really cool to put pictures in there. And my mother-in-law, Kathleen, who is way more talented than me, so you should probably stop watching this video right now and run over to her YouTube channel instead and check everything she has to offer out, because she's the real master. She has this letter that she gives to people who buy her journals that kind of walks through different things that you could do with them and kind of sparks some ideas and kind of explains it. Because that is a really common thing when people see it. It's like, but what do you do? Because it seems different than a notebook. But once you've been kind of submerged in the junk journaling world and you see lots of creative journaling, you're like, oh, I know exactly what to do with it, or I know what people do with it. But it can be a little confusing at first, or like, so I can't write in it, it's so pretty. So her little letter that she gives, I think, is a fabulous thing to give people or to read yourself if you're trying to figure out what to do with it. I've asked Kathleen if it would be okay if she did a YouTube video about that letter, and she is more than happy to share it with you and upload the document to where it's downloadable and you can have access to it. I just talked to her yesterday, so the time I'm recording this, that hasn't happened yet, but as soon as she does that, I'll put the link in the description. If you have made, collected, or kept 50 junk journals and you don't know what to do with them, I have some ideas. First, you could decide they're just your collection that you love, and you can have a box of them or maybe some shelves on a bookshelf. But this is where I differ from most crafters, is I don't hold on to things. I don't hold on to ephemera. I don't hold on to any supplies. In fact, my philosophy is if you love it, use it. I give away all my journals or I sell them because I really like to create more, and I know that if I want to keep creating, then I can't keep hoarding them. And that's why I used to give away my junk journals to my friends and family before I started selling them, because I don't want a bookshelf full of junk journals. I totally do share what seems to be a universal love of paper and textures and buying supplies. I love buying papers, but I do not like keeping things, and I kind of have a system to where if it doesn't fit in my drawer or space, then I can't have more. And that's why I love using up all my supplies, because then I can go get more supplies. So there really is no wrong answer to what to do with a junk journal. Even if it's just put it in a box, put it on a shelf, give it away, or do nothing with it. They're so fun to make and create, and they are such a joy to just hold and flip through. There is something so special about a junk journal that is captivating and wonderful. And so whether you're utilizing it, enjoying making it, or just enjoy collecting them, they are a fabulous thing to have in your life. Thank you so much for your question. And I'm kind of starting to run a little low on questions. So if you can think of a question and if you want to drop it in the comments, that would be awesome, because in a couple weeks, if I have to start making up my own questions, I'd be a little embarrassed. So help a girl out. And I love everyone's comments so much, so please keep them coming. Comment, like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.